Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Wrestling vs. the World podcast. If you're enjoying your day, sweet. If not, then what the hell ever. So I was doing one of those times where I wanted to finally do another WWE career retrospective in a way. Because, I got another History of Championship episode ready, getting prepared soon. Not sure when exactly, but I wanted to talk about Alberto Del Rio. Because I know he's a controversial name, and you should already know that. I wanted to quickly, look over both of his WWE runs and kind of figure, what really went wrong. So, we got to remember, we got to start all the way back in 2010. Got vignettes going on. I'm Alberto Del Rio, and I have a fancy car, I got a big house, and all that other shit. So they're giving him this character that he's this rich Mexican aristocrat. He comes in with the fancy cars, he's got the big scarf, he's got his own ring announcer, being Ricardo Rodriguez, stuff like that. So it's like, hey, they've got some kind of identity linked to this guy. So it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. So when he debuted and everything, they tried giving him this mean streak. He's taking out guys, being the reason why guys are out due to injury, because, he attacked Rey Mysterio, he attacked Christian, they both got arm and pec muscle injuries, everything. So, how dare this guy do this? So they got a character, and it seems like they're really strong on the guy, which, you can't really fault him for. He's trying to get into some pay-per-view matches. There was a tag match, Survivor Series 2010 against Team Mysterio, but Team Mysterio won. But they're trying to keep Del Rio strong. Oh, he got knocked out by Big Show. Oh, no. So he also had already got pushed real fast because, he debuted in June on the main roster, and by December, he's in the Fatal 4-Way match in a TLC match for the World Heavyweight title. Originally, he was supposed to go on against Ray 1-on-1 in a chairs match. Then he combined it with Kane and Edge to make a better match, Fatal 4-Way for the title, which Edge won, thank goodness. But this was not going to be the end of Del Rio, because, after he finishes his feud with Ray, he's going on to, they got the whole thing with NXT, which we're not going to cover for, because, that's too much of an aggravation to go through. All you really need to know was, he was the pro of Brodus Clay. So, eventually, you had this alliance going on again with Del Rio and the future Mr. Funkasaurus. That doesn't last very long, but you get to the Royal Rumble now. 2011, 40-man Royal Rumble match. Same rules apply, as usual, just 10 more people. And Del Rio won at the end by last eliminating fucking Santino. He got hit by the Cobra, but then Santino's like, I'm gonna win, throw, but nope, duck through. Out goes Santino, and Del Rio wins to get the shot at WrestleMania. And he goes against Edge for the World Heavyweight title, but they go against the rules saying, hey, if you win the Royal Rumble, you're supposed to main event WrestleMania. Instead, he opened it with Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship. And Edge managed to retain the title, thankfully. That was a good move there. And because of that, afterwards, Edge and Christian decided to destroy Del Rio's fancy rent-a-car up on the entrance area. And this was actually Edge's last televised match that he would have for the next 9 years. He did have a dark tag match that happened between this and when he officially had to announce his retirement, but this was the last match for Edge on television. Now, he was supposed to have gone against Del Rio at Extreme Rules in a ladder match for the World Heavyweight title, but because of Edge's forced retirement all of a sudden because of his neck and spinal issues, this now became a match where Del Rio went against Christian for the vacant title, and Christian won, and then you did the whole thing with one more match, etc., etc. So now, later on with 2011, according to here, it says, Del Rio was drafted over to Raw, which you can't really remember much from the 2011 draft because it became completely useless by the end, within a few months. But they pretty much used this to split off Del Rio with Brodus Clay. No more of a thing, well, at least after Extreme Rules. So now he's Big Show, Del Rio, he's floating around with different feuds and everything, going against, Big Show. I'm even looking at Wikipedia, I forgot that they had a match of Capital Punishment. Okay, just completely random. Then you get to this whole thing with Money in the Bank 2011. One of the best pay-per-views of the year, and one of the best pay-per-views ever. Del Rio wins Money in the Bank to get a shot at the WWE Championship, because it's the second year we're having it where it's an annual pay-per-view, and you have two Money in the Bank ladder matches to where you win the red brand one, you go for the one that's, the title's over on Raw, and same thing with over on SmackDown. So now, he's got a shot whenever he wants for the WWE title for at least for the next year. And I remember this was weird because, right before this, before CM Punk did the pipe bomb and disappeared and everything, Del Rio did win a number one contendership triple threat. I think, I can't remember who he faced, but he won that. Then it became pointless, and then he won Money in the Bank. It was okay, nonsensical in terms of his status. Then he loses the tag match SummerSlam only to then cash in after Punk won the match against Cena. Now, I'm new WWE champion, but you already know that. I know I'm doing a bit of an Italian accent, I can't help it. There's a little mix there. And his first run doesn't last long because of his first televised first pay-per-view title defense. He taps out to Cena at Night of Champions. And then he regains it the next month in the triple threat against Punk and Cena at Hell in a Cell. So they're hot potatoing the title around. The Survivor Series hits with Madison Square Garden. He's pretty much forced into giving the title shot to Punk, who put him in the Anaconda Vice. And Punk decides to one-up Del Rio by saying, hey, you got your ring announcer? I got one for myself. Here's Howard Finkel. And Punk makes Del Rio tap out and becomes the new WWE champion. So this begins CM Punk's 434-day title run. And then he tried again later on at the TLC event. At one point, it was like they were just constantly adding people and subtracting people. Like, you had Cena also in there with The Miz and Del Rio. They took Cena out. So it was a triple threat of Punk, Del Rio, Miz, and Punk still retained. So now, after this, Del Rio, 2012, my gosh, this is where everything goes so wrong. You would think it seemed like he was going to get ready for, like, WrestleMania or something like that. I think he might have been out due to a concussion or something like that, but he missed WrestleMania. But then after Extreme Rules, he's feuding with Sheamus. The feud that felt like it was never going to end. Where Del Rio just wanted to be champion, and like they were supposed to have had a match at, I know they had the Fatal 4-Way at Over the Limit, which also had Jericho and Randy Orton. Sheamus retained on there. They were supposed to have had Sheamus versus Del Rio and No Way Out, but Del Rio got a concussion, so instead became Ziggler, pre-Money in the Bank, getting the shot instead. And then you saw the constant stuff with Sheamus Del Rio, because you had it at freaking Night of Champions, then you had it, it was Money in the Bank, then SummerSlam, and then Night of Champions. Like, Night of Champions, they keep jumping around in terms of when that pay-per-view month is, but they had 3 pay-per-views in a row where Sheamus just kept beating Del Rio. They tried the whole thing like, Sheamus, he committed Grand Theft Auto and trashed Del Rio's rent-a-car. His bro kick is dangerous and we gotta sue somebody, and 1-800-FELLA, let's bro kick a tree, and all that other goofy nonsense. It was just a feud that nobody looks fondly on, and I don't freaking blame them. The less we have to remember about that, the better. So, the feud finally ends there. Thank goodness! Because like I said, it was the feud that never ended. And then afterwards, like, he's feuding with Randy Orton going in Hell in a Cell. That meant nothing. They had the whole tag match of Survivor Series. That was whatever. And then TLC, they turned him babyface. Because he's, like, saving Ricardo Rodriguez and the Spanish announce team from 3MB. Because, how dare you talk to my manager or my ring announcer guy like that. So now they turned him babyface. And I remember I covered this with the Raw Christmas special. Even though he just turned babyface before this, he accidentally runs down Santa Claus with his car, be like, it was an accident. So they did that little snafu. I know it was a one-time thing, but still weird for you to choose a guy who just turned babyface to play this role for this show. But now this is where they sort of change things, because now he no longer has the fancy car entrances. Like, I think they just decided to scale back the fact that, hey, he's a heel, he's this rich guy. He still keeps Ricardo Rodriguez as his ring announcer there, though, which was a good thing. And then, early on, I remember this being a thing on WWE.com, they spoil one of the episodes of SmackDown where Del Rio won the World Heavyweight title from Big Show in a last man standing match, and they spoiled it on WWE's website, and Joey Styles defended, being like, hey, would you rather it be the dirt sheets? We'd rather it be nowhere, you know? And then he would, like, retain the title at follow-up defenses at the Royal Rumble and then Elimination Chamber. So Del Rio is still the number one, like, Mexican Latino babyface wrestler. But again, if you want a true good guy character within that ethnicity, you're better off with Ray. Yeah, Ray can't cut a promo very well, but still. And then we get the whole feud after the Big Show stuff with Jack Swagger, We the People, and the Real Americans, and all that crap. Like, imagine that being a thing in 2026. But, like, Del Rio and Ricardo are the babyfaces. Swagger and Zeb Coulter, a.k.a. Uncle Zebekiah, they're portrayed as the heel, being like, we don't like immigrants in our country, or people we perceive to be immigrants, and anything like that. And it's just like, that's the wrong mindset to have, no matter what year it is and everything, especially when you just instantly assume that somebody may not be illegal, let's be honest. And they had the match at WrestleMania because Swagger became number one contender after winning the Elimination Chamber, but Swagger, behind the scenes before this, got into some legal issues. And they had the match at WrestleMania. It was solid at best, but nothing you're gonna put on, like, on a top 10 list. Not top 10 lists in WrestleMania history, not even top 10 pay-per-view matches of that year. But, like, it was a solid match. Then Extreme Rules hit. Just like after this, Del Rio lost the World Heavyweight title the night after WrestleMania 29 because Ziggler cashed in, and I covered that on the show. And they were going to do a triple threat now where Ziggler was going to defend the title against Swagger and Del Rio, triple threat ladder match Extreme Rules. But Swagger kicked Ziggler in the head, gave him a concussion, so now we had to change gears. Because now it's Del Rio, Swagger, I Quit match, winner's number one contender later on at Payback, going against Dolph Ziggler. And Del Rio defeats Swagger. Or, going against Ziggler, Del Rio defeats Swagger. You know what I'm talking about. So Payback happens. And they actually do a double turn here. Because, Del Rio, he's the babyface going into this, and Ziggler's the heel. But they did the double turn here because Del Rio, he was acting like a heel, just constantly going after Ziggler's head. And Ziggler, he's the whole triumphant, I will not give up type of character, despite his legitimate concussion happening there before, and still getting his head targeted, but it's like, oh, I will never give up. I'm the next John Cena. Do. But Del Rio, he turns heel, and afterwards, like, I want to represent all you people. Which didn't work. Then they had Money in the Bank. Del Rio retained the title because Ziggler got disqualified because AJ attacked Del Rio with the championship and everything, so that ended that there. And then you had that ended that feud essentially because now AJ is having problems with Ziggler, and Del Rio going to SummerSlam, he's now going against Christian. They had a really good match at SummerSlam, and Christian saying, oh, I just need one more match. We already went through that enough back then. And then you get to the point where everything else really falls off a cliff for Del Rio because now he's a heel again. He decides, oh, I no longer need Ricardo Rodriguez by my side. Screw my ring announcer. And during this time, he's feuding with Van Dam. Because you got Night of Champions and Battleground and everything. Del Rio, he's keeping the title every time. And that was, like, it for Del Rio and Ricardo Rodriguez. Then Hell in a Cell hits. He loses the World Heavyweight title to a returning John Cena, who had been out since after SummerSlam because of a partially torn triceps injury. He fails to regain the title at Survivor Series. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end for Del Rio. Because now at this point, the guy is no longer world champion. He no longer has any characteristics to where you remember that he's a rich guy. He doesn't have the fancy car entrances. He doesn't have his ring announcer. So he's just a guy on the roster now. And it's just like, one pattern that I almost forgot to quickly bring up before we get to 2014 now, one pattern I kept remembering that they would do in the day that became so predictable with the guy is that if he lost on pay-per-view, the next night, he's winning a squash match like on Raw or SmackDown to try to regain his heat. Oh, he completely destroyed Yoshitatsu or Zack Ryder or Heath Slater or just whatever babyface he could get heat on. Just, they did that every single time. Like, you could predict it. Oh, he lost. Next night, he's getting his heat back on Raw. And it happened like clockwork. But now 2014, he's got nothing going on. I know at one point, like, he was starting to feud with Batista, who came back. And this made no sense. Because after Royal Rumble, he's feuding with, like, Batista, going in Elimination Chamber. He's just saying, oh, I don't like you, Batista. I don't know why you're here. And, like, Batista's like, I don't get what your problem is. I have no problem with you, man. But Del Rio's just saying, I don't like you. Go away. It was nonsensical just saying you, like, explain why you don't want him there. What's the source of your anger against Batista? Like, it's confusing. So they had the match at Elimination Chamber. Batista won, but you had the crowd giving the opposite reactions, which is very bizarre. Now the crowd is cheering Del Rio and booing Batista. I know because, like, it was still fall from the Royal Rumble. But it's just completely pointless, and, like, it didn't do Del Rio any favors with this match. WrestleMania 30, he's in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. He lost. And then up until the summertime and everything, he was just there. Like, he didn't do anything significant. He had a couple pay-per-view matches that you don't really remember. And then by August, he had the whole incident where he slapped an employee for making a racist comment and everything like that. I mean, like, to be honest, like, I'm not a fan of Del Rio or who he is as a person, but it's like, you know what, seeing the situation, I think I can kind of see his side. You know, just saying. So he was gone for about the next year or so. Then he came back in 2015, and then this was where things fell off of, like, an even steeper cliff, and stuff just did not make sense. So, Cena, Hell in a Cell 2015, so October time, he's doing the U.S. Open Challenge. Whoever wants to step up at the Hell in a Cell event, come up and get your shot. And out comes Up Coulter in his hover-around scooter, probably not the same one that was driven around by John Laryngitis and thrown off the stage by Vince. He's like, oh, things are different now, and I'm here to represent your challenger, Alberto Del Rio. And we're like, I'm sure everybody else is doing the same thing. They're just looking at the screens being like, why? 2 years ago, you were against him because you said he wasn't a real American, and you're being against anybody who's Canadian and Mexican and etc., etc. Why are you suddenly now aligned with this guy after the segments that you guys had before where you're talking about, like, borders and all that other stuff? It's like, it made no sense, but Del Rio came back and he cleanly beat Cena to win the U.S. title, which is a big surprise, and now we have this whole Mex America thing going on. Like, not to be confused with that group or whatever that they had in TNA with Rosita, Sarita, Hernandez, and whoever that other guy is whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. But now they got this going on, and now Del Rio, I don't know what plans they have for Survivor Series, but originally, originally it was supposed to be Roman Seth for the WWE title. That got nixed because Seth got injured and everything, so now they got a tournament. Del Rio, who's the U.S. champion. Kevin Owens is the Intercontinental champion. You also have Dean and Roman in there for the final 4 people at Survivor Series, where the winner is going to be the champion. Del Rio lost, and Roman won, last eliminating Dean in the finals to become the new champion. And then afterwards we see the formation of the League of Nations, which was beyond pointless. Sheamus, Del Rio, Barrett, Rusev. I know it's 4 guys of different nationalities and everything, being like, oh, we're all together and we're all bonded and stuff like that. And then you saw the booting of Zeb Coulter. But it's just like, it felt like a cheaper version of that United Kingdom stable that we saw in Road to WrestleMania's mode or whatever from WWE 12. Like, they're just there because. Like, they just wanted to, like, I think one of the things was, like, they wanted a heel group for Roman to try to conquer and be over compared to. There might have been rumors that they would have thought the same thing to do with Cena, but Cena was out due to injury around this time, so it was like there was no point. But then Del Rio, during this point, he's feuding back and forth with Kalisto over the U.S. title. I know they got behind Kalisto because of that whole Salida del Sol to one of the Usos through the ladder at TLC, which was an amazing moment. But they just kept trading the U.S. title back and forth. Del Rio, just after losing the U.S. title, he was doing, like, tag matches and stuff like that. It was just completely pointless. Then, like, I think within a month after WrestleMania, the League of Nations was done. It was just, like, completely pointless. And then he proceeds to once again be just floating around, just being a guy again. Because, like, I remember it was even during this point, he had that terrible finisher where, like, he's constantly putting the guy in the tree of woe in the corner. They try to hold themselves up, and then he does the diving foot stomp to them as they're leaning there. Like, there was no way to set that up properly to make it look convincing that somebody's going to be able to take that or not, like, reverse it somehow. And then, of course, by August, he's gone from the company because, like, wellness policy violation, he had stuff, like, behind-the-scenes stuff going on with, like, Paige and, like, not feeling like he was getting the push that he was being promised when he came back, which is, like, thank goodness, because he does not deserve it because of who he is as a real-life person in terms of, like, what he does behind the scenes. But it's just, like, it was, like, why was he even coming back in the first place now? It was just, like, a complete waste of time, to be truthful. So, yeah, you look, like, Del Rio, like, in the ring, he's really good. I will give him that. He's really good in the ring. He can have some really good matches. But as a character, it became dry as you started to take stuff away. Because as an individual person, without the fancy entrance, without the, like, music that catches your attention in there, without the ring announcer and all that stuff, without any of those extra things, what is it about Del Rio himself as an individual that makes him stand out compared to anybody else? Because he really didn't really have anything. It's like I said, you look at the state of him once 2014 began, he was just a guy on the roster again. And then you even look after the League of Nations, which bombed, like disbanded after only a handful of months together, he was just floating around in purgatory doing nothing. There's just like, again, I know the company wanted to find some kind of Mexican/Latino babyface superstar to really help, like, maybe the Mexican market and stuff like that, but it's like, you have Rey. The guy is still wrestling to this day, and he's a bigger star than Del Rio. Yeah, Del Rio is better on the mic compared to Rey, but Rey has that connection, unlike Del Rio, and then you'll even look at their reputations. Rey's a better person for you guys to have, like, your confidence behind compared to Del Rio due to the constant troubles that he's gotten himself into over the years. But, yeah, like I said, like, in the ring, he can go. He can cut some really good promos, but it's just like, in terms of character work or anything to drive interest and a connection with the fans, Del Rio had nothing. Like I said, you take away those extra little minute things, and there was nothing to him. But let me know what you all thought in the comment section below. What did you think about Alberto Del Rio in WWE? Did you care for him or not? Any positive or negative memories, just let me know in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed today's episode of the podcast, folks, please remember, leave a like, subscribe to the bell, turn on here on YouTube, comment what you thought below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks for listening, folks. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out, and good day, everybody.